Corporal Moore, good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for the record?
I'm Corporal Joella Moore, Joella, last name Moore.
And how long have you been employed in law enforcement?
I've been in law enforcement 24 years. I've been with Charlotte County Sheriff's Office a little shy of 23 years.
And what are some of the different units that you've worked in law enforcement?
I worked in corrections as a correction deputy. I worked road patrol. I was a school resource officer. I worked our street crimes unit. Then I was promoted, and I went back to road patrol. Currently, I'm a corporal over our juvenile unit, and I also worked intel as a juvenile intervention detective.
So tell the jury a little bit about your kind of specialty or specialized knowledge about interacting with juveniles as it pertains to criminal justice system and in life in general.
So the majority of my adult life has been working with at-risk kids. Prior to law enforcement, I worked in Oregon under the Special Education Department, working with at-risk kids, severely emotionally disturbed, ages 13 to 18. I moved here to Florida to take care of my grandparents and came into law enforcement. Quickly ended up as a school resource officer, like I had said. Did that for the majority of my career at Charlotte County. And then went to the juvenile intervention detective, which works with the most at-risk kids. And currently now I'm back overseeing the juvenile unit where I started.
Now, how was it that you first became acquainted with Collin Griffith and his mom, Kathy Griffith?
We were in a transition as I got promoted to the juvenile, from the juvenile intervention detective position to corporal for road patrol. I worked with our new juvenile intervention detective Zanioni, and Corporal Rentis, so we were still in the transition of, they would ask me questions about kids and some resources that we have that they may not have had knowledge to, and Colin came up in that.
Did the defendant appear to be comfortable talking to you and to Lacey and Rentis?
Yes.
Now, did you have an opportunity to respond to the Griffith household in Port Charlotte November 13th of 2023?
Yes,
in
sir.
relationship to the domestic violence battery investigation?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you and your fellow deputies have body cam footage? Or, excuse me, body cam on so that it produced footage?
Yes, sir.
And is one of the deputies that also responded with you at different times Deputy Janowski?
Yes, sir. I was his supervisor.
And I understand he has a SUV, is that correct? Or he did back when this happened, law enforcement vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And in the back, is there something called an in-car camera?
Yes, sir.
And does that basically record video and audio of whoever's in the back seat of a car?
Yes, sir.
And on the specific date, November 13th, including 10:26 p.m. of November 13th, 2023, as well as after midnight, November 14th, 2023 at 2 a.m., and thereafter, would Deputy Janowski's in-car camera just be continuously running?
They're activated when we turn them on, or they can be activated. All of our body cameras will be activated if our firearms are pulled, if our tasers are utilized, or in that general facility if another officer's equipment has been pulled. That way we can capture everything. So we have these automatic safeguards that'll signal the activation of our cameras. The lights on our patrol car, right? If we turn our lights on, they automatically kick in, or we can manually turn them on.
At some point during the night, was the defendant arrested for TV battery on his mom?
Yes, sir.
And at some point during the night, was he put in the back of Janowski's vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And did Janowski's in-car video capture the defendant talking in the back seat of the car?
Yes, sir.
Now, there's been a name mentioned, Corporal Rentis, who's now Sergeant Rentis. What was his relationship to the defendant?
He had a close relationship with the defendant and the family, and would frequently speak to him or have communications if they were having trouble to try to resolve or give resources to the family.
And on the in-car camera, is the defendant have access to a cell phone on his lap?
Yes, sir.
And describe to the jury how that came about.
I had received a phone call from Corporal Rentis, who was actively on the phone with the defendant. Rentis had told me that there was some type of disturbance over at the house. So I responded over there, notified Central that I had just received a phone call from Corporal Rentis. At the time, he's since been promoted. I'll refer to him as Corporal Rentis so it doesn't get confusing. And so we responded over there, and Corporal Rentis maintained phone contact with Colton.
At certain times, would you appear at the side of Janowski's SUV and interact with the defendant?
Yes, sir. So whenever we have a person in the back of our patrol car, we monitor them, keep them within ear and eye, so we can hear what's going on and see them in case there's some type of an emergency or if they need assistance. So we don't have to stand necessarily right there all the time, but we have to be able to hear them if they need assistance.
And in terms of the state exhibits 191, 192, and 193 all being in-car videos from Janowski on November 14th. Actually, it looks like they're all from the early morning hours of November 14th. Have you had an opportunity at some time to watch the in-car camera footage?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, this time the state would move State Exhibit 191, 192, and 193 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
There.
We'll start with 191. And before, as we get that queued up, was there some subject matter in which the defendant was talking about kind of two different personas, Colin 1 and Colin 2?
Yes, sir.
I'll say it to you like this, if you want to know. Colin 1 is, I guess, he's who just wants to survive, help people, and do good things in the world. And Colin 2 is the one that protects Colin 1 in situations where he can't escape from. And Colin 2 is the one that killed someone. But you're talking to Colin 1. You're talking to Colin 1. The one who just wants to help people and just wants to.
So is that the cell phone that's visible on the defendant's lap?
Yes, sir.
And he's talking to Corporal Rentis?
Yes, sir.
Next we'll segue to 192. Oh, and for the record, that was, if you could turn that back on, John. Thank you. So we can see the time and the date.
Rentis. Oh.
So that clip appears to be from November 14th, 2023 at 1:59 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. The state will next publish 192.
I need to figure out exactly what you're scared of without having you be scripted and you giving me some sense of stuff.
Scared of going back in there, Rentis. Jesus, how many times do I gotta say it? That's all I'm scared of. That's it.
I'm fucking scared of that, Colin.
Yes, I am, Rentis, because what's it gonna come down to next time?
Colin, I don't think you're a pussy. I think that you are capable of killing your mother, but I don't think that you will.
No, why would I?
I will let you get to that. Do you think Colin will want to let you get to that? I can't hear you, sorry. Why, Colin, you're strong in that visual? Why would you submit in a roundabout way to Colin said? When we talk about...
It's the strongest version of me.
Did you hear Corporal Moore, the defendant, saying, yeah, he would, as it pertains to Colin 1, allowing him to kill his mom?
I did, sir.
And that is on November 14th, 2023, at about 2:21 in the morning.
Yes, sir.
And for the final clip will be State Exhibit 193.
I don't know how I'm gonna react when she does that again. If I can control myself, or how that's gonna happen.
What do you think you might do to her
If she tries to hit me again, I might hit her back really, really hardly and badly.
You got hurt?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the record, that was not November 14th, 2023 at 3:22 a.m.
Yes, sir.
So at the end of that investigation, is it a fair statement the defendant was arrested?
Yes, sir.
Corporal Moore, I don't have any further questions for you.
Cross.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Corporal Moore, every time that Colin said, either in your presence or on the camera footage that you've reviewed, that he might hurt his mom or he was afraid he would hurt his mom, he prefaced that statement by saying, if she hits me, or if she comes at me, or if she attacks me, I'm afraid I'll hurt her. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So he never said, I just want to kill my mom for no reason whatsoever.
No, ma'am.
Don't think I have any other questions. Oh, Colin told you that night that his mom had punched him before he threw her on the ground, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Redirect.
I have nothing further.
Is the witness released?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Deputy Joseph Janowski of the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office.
This one. Step right here, raise your right hand if you want anybody to vote.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Just with you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Levine.
Thank you. Deputy Janowski, will you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Deputy Janowski with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office.
Tell the jury about your education and training and experience.
So I went to the police academy. I've done multiple specialty classes like speed and measurement, as well as narcotics and dangerous drugs. I'm a pit instructor for the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. I currently work on the road patrol, so you call 911 in my area. I'm the one showing up.
I want to direct your attention specifically to this case as it pertains to the defendant. Did you have an opportunity to respond to address in Port Charlotte as part of a domestic violence battery investigation?
I did.
And at the time, were you a field training officer of another one of the deputies who was present?
I was.
And who were you supervising?
I was training Deputy Sharp.
And were you basically overseeing him and allowing him to do his part of the investigation?
Correct.
What was your role in the investigation?
So I was overseeing, so he was in his final phases of training. So I let him do his investigation. I'm there to guide him if he has questions or to help him along if he gets stuck in a certain situation.
Now, while you were doing that, did you have your body cam going?
I did.
When the investigation was kind of coming to an end, were you inside with Kathy Griffith and her mom, Susan Detman, in the living room area?
I was.
And were you asking certain questions that pertains to domestic violence within the household?
I did.
Your Honor, the state at this time would move State Exhibit 189 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
It will be received.
I just need one moment, Your Honor. Thanks, John. And before we play it, would this is it a fair statement that the defendant at this time is outside, either in the back of your patrol vehicle or somewhere else?
That is correct.
So the only two people present, civilian-wise, would be the victim, Kathy Griffith, and her mother?
That's correct.
A couple quick yes or no questions that I almost forgot before we go. And do you think he's capable of killing you?
Yes.
Does he have access to a firearm?
No.
And
Not anymore.
all right. Any other questions before we leave? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
So when you ask, do you think he's capable of killing you, was her response yes?
Yes, it was.
And then in the back of your patrol vehicle, and for the record, that was from around November 13th, 2023 at 10:26 p.m. Excuse me, at 10:20 p.m. This next video, 190, from the back of your vehicle will be at November 13th, the same day at 10:26 p.m.
That's not in evidence yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right, Your Honor. Let me ask you a couple questions about that. Now, as you return to your vehicle, did your body cam capture a little bit of a conversation between Susan Detman, who was standing outside of your patrol vehicle as she spoke with her grandson, the defendant?
It did.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move State Exhibit 190 into evidence,
Mr. Thornhill,
No objection.
it will be received.
and with the court's permission, we'll play it for the jury.
Amen.
Thank you.
Why did you stand up? And why did you say?
I was trying to have a face-to-face conversation.
No, you didn't. You stood up and said, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, you did. I was there.
I was saying, Mom, I'm not a psychopath. I'm not this murderer. I'm just trying to peacefully coexist and just figure something out. She kept telling me to shut up and shut up, and when I wouldn't shut up, she hit me.
No, that's not what happened, Colin. That's not what happened. You never said you wanted to peacefully coexist.
I've been saying that.
You said that in the car, but not there with her.
Deputy, towards the beginning of that clip, did you hear the defendant say, "I'm not a psychopath"? Mom, I'm not a psychopath. I'm not this murderer.
I did.
Deputy Janowski, I have no further questions for you.
Cross.
Good afternoon, Deputy Jankowski.
Good afternoon.
Colin was in the back of, was that your car or was that somebody else's car?
That was my car.
For over 5 hours that night, wasn't he?
I don't know the exact time frame. That doesn't sound right.
Well, one of the camera clips we've seen was from like 10 p.m. on the 13th. And then the last one from your car was 2:30 or so on the 14th, 2:30 a.m. So sorry, 4.5 hours. Does that sound about right?
I couldn't say for sure. It sounds like a long period of time for someone that was arrested for battery to sit in the back of a car for 4 hours to me.
Is it fair to say that this investigation took a long time?
It did take a reasonable amount of time.
I'm not saying that anybody
Yeah.
delayed anything. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that it wasn't a quick, we can determine exactly what happened right away kind of thing, was it?
No, because people had conflicting stories.
Right. That last little bit, that clip that showed part of a conversation between Susan Detman and Colin, Colin said that his mom had called him a psychopath and a murderer, right?
I know Colin stated in that clip, I'm not a psychopath, I'm not this murderer, if I'm quoting it correctly.
But he said that I told my mom that I'm not that, correct? Implying that she had called him those things.
I know he said the word mom before he made that statement.
Did you ever ask Kathy whether she called him those names?
No.
Thank you.
Redirect.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Is the witness released?
Yes.
Mr. Norton?